Chapter 1. The Perfect Life, or so I thought. Hey babe, working late again tonight? I glanced up from the greasy engine block under my hands, phone wedged between my ear and shoulder. Brooke's voice came through flat, almost bored. There was a time she called just to hear my voice. Now it was just check-ins, more like reminders that she existed rather than affection. Yeah, I said, wiping sweat from my brow with the back of my glove. Transmission job came in late. I'll probably be home around 9. A pause. I could almost hear her eyes roll. Again, I told you last night. I replied carefully. The Thompson job needed follow-up. Plus, rent's coming up fast, and we've got the car payment next week. She cut me off. Yeah, I get it. You're doing your provider thing. That stung a little. Not because it wasn't true I was trying to provide, but because she said it like it didn't matter anymore. After we hung up, I stood there in the shop's fluorescent haze, staring at nothing for a second too long. My boss, Ray, shot me a look from across the garage. Trouble at home? He asked, tossing a wrench into a toolbox. I shrugged. Just tension. Ray grunted. Ain't that always how it starts? Back then, I didn't get what he meant. But I would. Brooke and I had been together 7 years. Married for 4. When we met, she was fire, funny, spontaneous, gorgeous in a way that made other men forget what they were saying mid-sentence. I was the opposite. Quiet, grounded, more practical than poetic. But she liked that. She said I made her feel safe. I've never had a guy who actually showed up when he said he would, she used to tell me. It's sexy. Funny how quickly reliable turns into predictable when people get bored. Things didn't fall apart overnight. They just changed. It started with her phone. She used to leave it lying everywhere, on the kitchen counter, coffee table, face up on the bed. Now it was always screen down, and she suddenly had a password. When I asked about it, she laughed. Seriously, Logan? You think I'm hiding something? I didn't say that. Then stop being weird about it. I'll let it go. At first. Then came the girls' nights. Every other Friday turned into every Friday. Then Saturdays, too. She started dressing up more, tighter dresses, higher heels, makeup layered thick like she was going on a date. I asked once jokingly if I should be worried. She laughed, flipping her hair in the mirror. Oh my God, no. Don't be so insecure. I wasn't. At least not yet. But something didn't sit right. One night, I got home early, around 7:30. I wanted to surprise her. I had grabbed takeout from that Thai place she liked and picked up a bottle of cheap rose she used to beg me to drink with her while watching trash TV. The house was dark. I walked into the living room. Her shoes were gone. So was her coat. I called her cell. Straight to voicemail. An hour later, she walked in laughing, face lit up like she'd just won the lottery. Her phone buzzed in her hand, and she silenced it before she even took off her jacket. Oh, she said when she saw me, her smile fading just slightly. You're home early. Yeah, brought dinner. She glanced at the takeout bags, still unopened on the table. Oh, I already ate. With who? Just the girls. Megan and Liz. Thought Megan was in Miami this weekend. She blinked. Caught, right? I meant Lisa. You know what I meant. I wanted to push, to call out, but something in her tone stopped me. Sharp, dismissive. And so, I did what I've been doing a lot lately. I let it slide. We sat in silence for a while, her scrolling her phone while I picked at my pad thai, like it was some puzzle I couldn't solve. Sex dried up too. She started wearing baggy clothes to bed. Said she was tired. Said work was stressful. Said she just didn't feel sexy lately. But then I'd see her on Instagram, tight dress, full makeup, selfies with captions like girls just want to have fun. No tags. No locations. No signs of the girls. I wasn't stupid. I just didn't want to believe what I was seeing. One night, I caught her smiling at her phone while cooking. I walked up behind her and kissed her neck. She flinched. Jesus, Logan. Wore me first. You used to like when I did that. She didn't answer. Instead, she went back to her phone. She laughed at something on the screen. I peeked over her shoulder. She tilted it away. Fast. Something funny? I asked, trying to sound light. Just a meme. From who? She turned and looked me dead in the eye. Why are you acting so paranoid lately? I'm not. You're checking my phone, asking questions, getting all weird. I'm just trying to connect with my wife, I said, trying not to raise my voice. Is it weird now? Silence. Then she sighed, set down the phone, and walked away. No apology, no affection, just walked away. I stood there, hands still on the counter, staring at her untouched glass of wine. But the worst part wasn't the silence, the suspicion, or the distance. It was the way I started second-guessing myself. Maybe I was working too much. Maybe I was boring. Maybe I wasn't attractive anymore. Or maybe I had lost the fire she used to love. I'd stand in the mirror at night, toothbrush hanging from my mouth, wondering when I became invisible to my own wife. I'd stare at her while she slept, wondering who she texted before locking her phone and turning away from me. Still, I told myself it was just a phase. I mean, we'd had rough patches before. Everyone does, right? That's what I told myself, right up until the night she looked me dead in the eye and said the words that made something inside me go cold. It's not what you think. He's just my friend. And I just nodded, staring at the woman I no longer recognized, thinking to myself, sure, I get it. Then I planned my own weekend getaway. Chapter 2. His name is just Kevin. The first time I heard his name, I wasn't supposed to. It was a Wednesday night around 8. I come home early for once, hoping to surprise Brooke with dinner. I grab her favorite pepperoni calzone and that overpriced bottle of Pinot Noir she always claimed made her feel classy. The house was quiet when I stepped in. The kitchen light was on, but she didn't answer when I called out. That's when I heard it, soft laughter drifting from down the hall. Our bedroom. I crept closer, bag of takeout in hand, and paused just outside the door. Her voice was lower than usual, the kind she used when she was locked into a juicy conversation. Intimate. Too intimate. No, stop, she giggled. You're such an idiot. God, Kevin. I stepped into the room. Brooke was on the bed, one leg folded beneath her, phone to her ear. Her smile vanished like a light switch had flipped. She scrambled to sit up straighter and ended the call mid-sentence. Oh, hey. Didn't hear you come in, she said, blinking. Who was that? I asked, doing my best to keep it casual. But my voice gave me away. She set the phone down with too much care. Relax. It was just Kevin. Kevin. She rolled her eyes like I was the one being ridiculous. He's my best friend from college. I frowned. You've never mentioned to Kevin before. She tilted her head. Yes, I have. No, I said firmly. You haven't. Not once in the past 4 years. She scoffed. Jesus, Logan, you're being dramatic. He's like a brother to me. We just lost touch for a bit and reconnected recently. God forbid I have friends you don't know. There was again that cold tone. Defensive. Dismissive. I set the food down on the nightstand. I brought dinner. She looked at the bag like it had just sprouted mold. Oh, I already ate. I nodded slowly. With Kevin, she stared at me like I'd slapped her. What the hell is that supposed to mean? It's a question. She stood up, crossing her arms. It means you're paranoid, and it means you're secretive. Her mouth opened like she was going to fire something back, but instead she just shook her head and pushed past me toward the bathroom. I don't need this tonight, she muttered. I stood there for a long while, alone with the calzones, wondering how the hell a guy I'd never heard of was suddenly important enough to make her laugh like that. The next few days, Kevin's name kept popping up like an unwelcome virus. Subtle at first, a text notification she tried to hide. Hey Kev, LOL, on her Instagram story. Then came a bombshell. We had plans that Friday night. Dinner, drinks, maybe even a movie, something we hadn't done in months. I'd taken the night off early, cleaned the house, even shaved for the first time in a week. I was waiting on the couch, watching the clock tick when Brooke walked in wearing tight jeans and a black lace top I hadn't seen in a while. Damn, I said, standing up. I can't make it tonight, she said quickly, grabbing her clutch from the table. I blinked. What? I'm meeting Kevin. I just stood there. My voice failed me for a few seconds. You're canceling our plans? For him. She sighed and looked at me like I was a stubborn child. It's not like that, Logan. He's in town for the weekend, and this is the only night we could meet up. We haven't seen each other in years. So, I don't matter now. Oh my God, stop making this about you. It is about me, I said, the words sharper than I intended. I'm your husband. And he's my friend, she snapped back. Why are you so threatened? I stepped forward. Because I don't even know this guy. You never mentioned him. And now, suddenly, he's in your life again, and he gets priority over me. He's going through a lot. she said flatly. He needs someone to talk to. I scoffed. And I don't. That one hit her. She blinked, looked away, then glanced down at her phone. You know what? She muttered. Forget it. I'll cancel. No, I said. Go, if that's what you want. There was a long, heavy silence between us. She stared at me, trying to read whether I meant it. I wasn't sure I did, but I wasn't going to beg. She turned and walked out. The door closed harder than it needed to. I stood there, jaw clenched, heart pounding like I'd just run a race. The room felt colder than it had in months. I didn't eat that night. Just sat on the couch, the food still warm in its container, watching the front door like it owed me an explanation. Later, I lay in bed alone. The sheets felt too big. The silence was unbearable. At 1:17 a.m., I heard the front door open. I didn't move. I listened as her heels clicked across the hardwood, heard the soft shuffle of her coat being hung up, the bathroom door creaking open, water running. No explanation, no apology. She climbed into bed without a word. I stared at the ceiling, hands behind my head, feeling like a stranger in my own life. The next morning, over burnt toast and bitter coffee, I finally asked, So, how was Kevin? She barely looked up. Fine. He's staying with his sister in town for a few days. We just caught up. Caught up on what? She set her cup down harder than necessary. Why are you interrogating me? I'm not. I'm trying to understand. Maybe try trusting me, she snapped. Maybe try giving me a reason to. Her mouth flattened into a tight line. She stood, dumped her half-finished coffee into the sink, and left the kitchen. That was the first time I realized this wasn't just some friend. It wasn't harmless. It was something else. Something that didn't feel like it belonged in a marriage. And the worst part? She made me feel crazy for noticing. The first big blow. She cancels a planned date night because Kevin's in town. Logan swallows his pride and plays it cool, but unease grows. Chapter 3. The Emotional Drift. I started trying harder after the night she canceled our date for Kevin. Not because I wanted to compete with him, but because I needed to believe I could bring her back. Maybe I'd let things go too long. Maybe work had taken too much out of me. Maybe I'd become that boring, worn-out guy she never thought she'd marry. So I leaned in hard. It started small. I left a note in her car one morning. Just a simple, hope today doesn't suck. I love you. Taped it to her dashboard before she left for work. I imagined her smiling when she saw it, texting me something cute in return like she used to. But I never got a text. That night, I asked her about it. Oh, yeah, that was sweet, she said, without looking up from her phone. Sweet, like a gesture from a stranger on a subway. No warmth, no spark. Still, I didn't stop. The next week, I surprised her at the marketing agency where she worked. I brought lunch, sushi from that expensive place downtown, and a small bouquet of tulips, pink and white, her favorite. She met me downstairs in the lobby, sunglasses still on, tapping through her phone as she walked up. I had a meeting, Logan. You should have called. I wanted it to be a surprise. Well, it was. I handed her the flowers. She gave them a cursory glance. You're not in trouble, are you? She said, half laughing. You usually only bring flowers when you screw up. That one hit harder than it should have. I forced a smile. Just thought you deserved something nice. She took them awkwardly, glancing around like someone might see. Thanks. I have to get back upstairs. And just like that, she was gone. That night, she came home late, claimed the office was behind on a client pitch. She went straight into the bathroom without saying much else. I sat at the kitchen table, her half of the sushi untouched in the fridge, the flowers already wilting in their vase. A part of me wanted to believe her. The other part kept hearing that name, Kevin, like a ghost that wouldn't leave the house. We'd barely touched each other in weeks. At first, it was small changes. Goodnight kisses turned into a quick pat on the back. Her pajamas went from lace to flannel. She'd climb into bed and turn her back to me instantly, phone screen lighting up the room in soft, blue glows. I tried to initiate one night. We were both off, no work the next day. I slipped behind her, wrapped my arm around her waist. She tensed. Not tonight, Logan, she muttered, not even turning around. I miss you, I said quietly. She didn't reply. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee, scrolled her phone, and barely looked up when I said good morning. I stood there, cup in hand, watching her like a stranger, This woman I used to laugh with, stay up all night talking to, touch like breathing. Now I felt like a roommate. Or worse, a burden. The worst part was how damn normal everything looked on the outside. We still ate at the same table, watched the same shows. She'd still ask if I needed anything from the store or remind me to grab gas. But it was all surface level. No affection, no depth, like she was on autopilot, just going through the motions until she could be alone again. One night, I brought home a movie we both loved, an old rom-com we'd watched together on our first trip as a couple. I ordered her favorite takeout, lit a candle in the living room just to try and set a tone. She came in from work, hair tied up messily, jacket tossed across the arm of the couch. "What's all this?" she asked, eyes darting around. "Thought we could have a night in. Like old times." She looked at the TV, then at the food. "Logan, I'm exhausted. I just want to shower and crash." "Rain check." That was the third rain check in 2 weeks. I nodded. "Yeah, of course." She disappeared into the bathroom, door closing with finality. The candle flickered for a while before burning itself out. I stopped trying after that. Not completely, but I gave up on surprises. I gave up on reaching for someone who didn't want to be reached. I figured if she wanted out, she'd say it. Until then, I'd just do my part. But it ate at me, quietly, constantly. I began watching everything. Who she texted, what time she got home, how often Kevin's name showed up on her screen, always in some short text that made her smirk or a laughing emoji that I hadn't seen aimed at me in months. She claimed they weren't talking much, just reconnecting. But it didn't feel harmless. It felt like I was being replaced in slow motion, one little crack at a time. Late at night, she'd lie next to me, scrolling through her phone beneath the covers. The glow of her screen lit her face in soft white tones as I lay staring at the ceiling. I watched her thumbs tap quickly. She'd smile sometimes, silently. I knew that smile. I hadn't seen it directed at me in a long time. "Who you texting?" I asked once. She angled her phone away slightly. "Just Megan." "You sure?" She turned to me with a flat expression. "Do you not trust me?" That question. Always that question. The trap. I stayed quiet. A moment later, she turned her back to me again. The tapping continued. Nights felt longer now. Lonelier. I used to feel peace laying beside her. Now I felt like I was in a bed with a stranger. And worse, I missed her, even while she was right there. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe I wasn't exciting anymore. Maybe I was just the guy who paid bills and fixed the water heater and came home with grease under his fingernails. When did that become not enough? I kept searching the ceiling for answers, hoping she'd roll over and put her head on my chest the way she used to. But she never did. She just kept texting, the glow of that goddamn phone screen burning hotter than any fight we'd ever had. Late at night, he lies awake, staring at the ceiling while she sleeps soundly beside him, texting under the covers minutes earlier. Chapter 4. The Weekend That Broke Me. It started with her humming in the kitchen, light, upbeat, a sound I hadn't heard from her in months. That should have been a good thing, except it wasn't for me. I was pouring my second cup of coffee when she strolled in wearing her weekend mood, yoga pants, and a loose off-shoulder tee. Her hair was tied up in that messy bun she wore when she was trying, but trying not to look like she was trying. Her phone buzzed. She smiled and typed back quickly. I glanced at her over the rim of my mug. "You're in a good mood." She grinned, almost sheepishly. "I was going to tell you, I'm heading out this weekend." I set my cup down slowly. "Out? Yeah, just for a couple days. Kevin's got this cabin 2 hours out by the lake. He invited me. Said it'd be good to clear our heads, catch up." I blinked. Thought maybe I misheard. "Wait, you're going away? With Kevin?" She nodded like it was the most normal thing in the world. "Yeah, don't look at me like that." I didn't say anything. My mouth opened, closed again. She tilted her head. "It's not like that, babe. We just need to catch up. He's going through stuff. Divorce, job stuff, a lot on his plate." My fingers tightened around the ceramic mug. "So he needs comfort, and you're the one to give it to him?" She scoffed. "God, listen to yourself. You sound like you don't trust me at all." "I don't trust him," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "And forgive me if it feels a little inappropriate for my wife to be spending a weekend in a cabin with another man." She crossed her arms, her face hardening. "Wow, so now I'm not allowed to have male friends." "That's not what I said." "Feels like it," she snapped. Kevin's been there for me when you've been emotionally checked out for months. I stared at her, stunned. Are you kidding me? She looked down, as if embarrassed, but not regretful. I'm just saying. He listens. He doesn't judge. And I need that right now. I stepped forward. What about me, Sam? I've been trying. You shut me out. You treat me like a ghost in my own home. And now you're telling me you need a weekend with him to figure yourself out. She softened just slightly. Look, Logan, I love you. But it's not working like it used to. I just need space. Time to breathe. I promise nothing's happening. I'd never cheat on you. I laughed, dry and sharp. But spending a weekend alone with a guy who clearly wants you isn't cheating? She walked over and placed a hand on my arm. Don't be insecure. Trust me, please. I need this. I didn't pull away, but I didn't nod either. I just stood there, watching the woman I married morph into someone I didn't recognize anymore. Later that night, I passed by the bedroom while she was packing. The door was slightly ajar. I caught a glimpse of lace. Black, sheer lingerie, something I hadn't seen her wear in over a year. She folded it carefully into her bag, alongside her new crimson lipstick and matching heels. That's when something cracked in me. Not loud, just final. She looked up and saw me standing in the doorway. Oh, hey, she said, unbothered. Just making sure I don't forget anything. My eyes dropped to the bag, then back to her. Looks like you're packing for a romantic getaway. She raised a brow. Seriously? I didn't answer. I didn't trust what would come out. She zipped the bag and brushed past me. You always overthink everything. It's exhausting. I watched her walk down the hallway, heels clicking against the hardwood, like she wasn't dragging my sanity with every step. The next morning, I stood by the door, arms folded, watching as she loaded her suitcase into the back of her car. She was wearing tight jeans, that leather jacket she always said made her feel dangerous, and a smirk that didn't belong to someone saying goodbye to her husband. She stopped at the door before leaving, giving me a half smile. I'll be back Sunday night. Don't stress, okay? I didn't speak. She leaned in, kissed me on the cheek like we were co-workers or cousins. Love you. I didn't say it back. She hesitated for a moment, like maybe she expected a fight. A scene. But I just opened the door for her. She gave me a weird look. You okay? I nodded once. Sure. She climbed in and pulled out of the driveway, tires crunching on gravel. I stood there, hand on the doorknob, watching her disappear down the street. I didn't wave. I didn't flinch. I just listened to the silence settle in the house like fog. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time. No TV, no phone, just the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the hollow echo of my own thoughts bouncing off the walls. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was something deeper, colder. I poured myself a whiskey straight, stared into it like it held some kind of answer. Then I reached for my phone. I scrolled through contacts I hadn't touched in years. My thumb paused on one name. Lana. We hadn't spoken in forever. But suddenly, it didn't seem so crazy. Because if she got a weekend, so would I. He watches her drive away, heart pounding. That night, he makes a decision. Chapter 5. Game on my own getaway. The phone call felt like lighting a match in a dark room I'd boarded up years ago. I stared at her name in my contacts for almost 10 minutes before finally pressing call. Lana Matthews. The one that got away on purpose. We had history. Not a bad ending, not a dramatic one. Just bad timing. Too wild. Too young. Too much fire and not enough structure. The phone rang twice. Logan Marks. Came her voice, smooth as honey with a hint of amused surprise. Did hell finally freeze over? I chuckled, leaning back in my chair. Hey, Lana. You ever wonder how wild we could have been if we didn't play nice back then? A pause. Are you drunk? No, I said. Not yet. She laughed. That's definitely a yet kind of question. You good? I hesitated, swirling the ice in my glass. Not really. Another pause, but this time softer. Talk to me. I exhaled. I need a weekend away. Something. Different. No expectations. Just peace. And maybe a little chaos. You want chaos? She asked, teasing. You sure you're ready to reopen that door? I'm not looking to fall back into anything, I clarified. Just clarity. A clean breath. Maybe someone who actually laughs at my jokes. She hummed. You always were the tragic romantic under all that beard and flannel. Okay, cowboy. Where we going? 2 days later, we pulled into the Lakeview Ridge Resort, a private lodge tucked against the edge of a pine-lined lake upstate. It wasn't one of those sketchy motels or cheap cabins. This was high-end, marble lobby, fireplace in every room, complimentary champagne on arrival. Not exactly my usual scene, but I figured if Brooke could disappear in her little fantasy with Kevin, I was damn well allowed mine. Lana stepped out of the passenger side, stretching like a cat. Tight jeans, leather jacket, aviators still stunning. She hadn't changed much. Confidence oozed from her like a scent. Heads turned when she walked past. "Place is fancy," she said, popping her sunglasses up onto her head. "Trying to impress me?" I smirked, trying to forget someone who's not worth remembering right now. Her smile faded for just a beat. Fair. The room was cozy. Cabin-style interior with a massive bed, fur throw pillows, and a view that could make a monk feel poetic. As I tossed our bags near the couch, Lana wandered toward the balcony. "So, Logan," she said, looking over her shoulder, "tell me the real reason we're here. You want the polished version or the ugly truth?" "Ugly," she said immediately. I sat on the edge of the bed, elbows on my knees. Brooke cheated, or she's about to. I don't have hard proof, just a gut full of glass and a heart that won't shut up. "She told you." "She told me she needed space with her guy friend. A cabin trip. Alone. Call me insecure when I questioned it." Lana turned, leaning against the balcony frame. Her expression was unreadable. "Oof. And here I thought you two were one of the good ones." "So did I." Silence stretched for a moment. "You still love her?" she asked quietly. "Yeah," I said without hesitation. "But I don't like her right now." That earned a faint smile. She stepped inside and closed the balcony door. "All right, so no sad playlist, no tears. Let's make this weekend about you." "I'm not trying to," she cut me off, holding up a finger. I don't want your disclaimers. I didn't drive up here to be your therapist, but I will be your distraction." That evening, we hit the lodge bar. The lighting was low, the crowd quiet, mostly couples trying to rekindle whatever magic they'd once had. Lana wore a black dress with a slit that could kill a man. Every movement of hers turned heads. We sat side by side at the bar, laughing more than I'd laughed in months. She teased me about my work boots. I mocked her obsession with jalapeno margaritas. "You always used to order these when you were in a reckless mood," I said, sipping mine and wincing. She grinned. "Exactly. And you always took one sip and went back to beer. Some things don't change." She leaned closer, voice softer. "But some things should." For a second, I saw that flicker in her eyes, the one from years ago. It made my stomach twist in ways I'd forgotten were possible. Back in the room, things got quiet. She sat on the edge of the bed, pulling off her earrings. I stood near the window, watching the reflection of the moon ripple in the lake. The air felt heavy, not sexual but charged. She glanced over her shoulder at me. "You're tense." I nodded. "Yeah, can't turn it off." She walked over slowly, stopping just in front of me. "I'm not here to mess with your head," she said gently. "I'm here because you needed a reminder. That you're not invisible. That you still wanted. That you're not crazy." Her words hit harder than they should have. "I don't know what this is," I admitted. "This weekend. You and me. It doesn't have to be anything," she said. "It's just now. Just us." We stood there, eye to eye, the silence loud between us. Then she reached up and touched my face, lightly, just her fingertips to my jawline. Her thumb brushed my cheek, and she smiled. "Still got that look in your eyes," she whispered. "Like you want to save everyone but yourself." I almost kissed her. Almost. Instead, I stepped back. "Thank you," I said, "for being here. But I need space tonight." She didn't flinch. "Okay, I'll take the couch." "You sure?" She winked. "What kind of bombshell ex would I be if I didn't make you earn it a little?" That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Again. Only this time, there wasn't a phone glowing beside me. No one turning away. No lies floating in the dark. Just soft breathing from the couch. And something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. The tension is heavy. No sex, but the vibe is electric. Chapter 6. Caught in the act. Brooke wasn't supposed to be home until Sunday night. At least, that's what she told Logan. But Sunday morning, at 9:47 a.m., Her car pulled into the driveway, dust still clinging to the back windshield from that cabin road, her expression unreadable behind oversized sunglasses. Her duffel bag thudded onto the hallway floor as she stepped into the house, expecting silence, maybe breakfast waiting on the counter, maybe a pissed-off husband pretending everything was fine. Instead, she got nothing. No TV on, no smell of coffee, no clanging from the kitchen or humming from the garage. She called out, "Logan." No answer. Her heels echoed through the hall as she checked the living room, bedroom, bathroom. Still nothing. The house felt colder than usual. Not physically, but emotionally, like it knew something. She pulled out her phone and called him. Straight to voicemail. Then again, voicemail. Her heart rate picked up, slow and sour. She tried texting. "Brooke, hey, just got home. Where are you? Brooke, are you ignoring me? Brooke, seriously, Logan, this isn't funny." She waited, pacing the living room, arms crossed tight over her chest. 15 minutes passed. Still no response. And then, ding, a notification. She checked her phone, expecting a reply. Instead, it was a new Instagram post. From Logan. Her stomach dropped. The photo loaded slowly, like it knew it was about to ruin her. There he was, on a boat, shirtless, smiling. Actually smiling, not that tired, worn-down smirk he'd been faking for months. And beside him, Lana. Long black hair, oversized sunglasses, toned legs draped casually across a bench. She leaned into him like they belonged there. Logan's arm was around her waist. The caption read, "Not the same, but damn, she's fun." Brooke's jaw clenched so tight it hurt. She didn't text. She didn't call again. She grabbed her keys and stormed out of the house, nearly knocking the screen door off its hinges. The drive up to Lakeview Ridge was a blur of trees, angry music, and fingernails digging into a leather steering wheel. Brooke hit 80 on the highway, nearly 90 when she passed a minivan that had the audacity to obey the speed limit. Her mind raced. Who the hell is she? When did this happen? He was just sulking a few days ago. He doesn't move on this fast. He's not that guy. But the worst thought was the one that crept up just beneath the rage. Had he finally stopped caring? Meanwhile, at the lake, Logan leaned back on the deck of the rental boat, sunglasses on, legs stretched out, a cold beer sweating in his hand. Lana was next to him, feet in the water, humming along to the music playing from a small Bluetooth speaker. "You know," she said, glancing over at him, "that post was just the right level of petty." He chuckled. "It was for me, not her." She teased. "Keep telling yourself that, Romeo." He took another sip and shrugged. "Let her wonder how it feels. To not know where I am, who I'm with." Lana nodded, swirling her toes in the water. "You think she's freaking out right now?" "Probably." "Good." A beat passed between them, comfortably quiet. The kind of silence Logan hadn't shared with anyone in a long time. Not the kind filled with tension or held breath. Just peaceful. Then he saw her, from across the dock, stomping down the wooden planks in tight jeans, lips pressed in a furious line, and fury radiating off her like heat waves off a summer sidewalk. "Brooke, oh boy," Lana muttered. "Hurricane's here." Logan took off his sunglasses, slowly. "Calm. Steady." He stood up as she approached, beer still in hand. "Logan," she barked. "Hey, babe," he said, voice relaxed. "Didn't expect you back so early." She didn't answer right away. Her eyes darted between him and Lana, who was now reclining a little more casually than necessary. "What the hell is this?" "This," he said, glancing around. "This is a boat. On a lake. Pretty standard vacation stuff. You know what I mean." "Oh," he said, dragging it out like he was solving a mystery. "You mean Lana." Lana gave her a slow wave. "Hi, Sam." Brooke's mouth twitched. "You're on a weekend getaway." "With her." Logan tilted his head. "You were just on a weekend getaway with Kevin." "That's different," she snapped. He raised a brow. "Is it?" "He's my friend," she barked. Logan smiled, cocky and cool, steady as ever. Then he looked her dead in the eye and said, "Relax, babe. She's just my friend." He let that hang in the air, long enough to sting. Then, with a wink that dripped with smugness, he added, "Cue cocky wink, Chapter 7. The confrontation. The silence after Logan's smirking jab. "Relax, babe." She's just my friend, hung in the humid lake air like a slap that hadn't landed yet. Brooke's lips parted, stunned. Her eyes, wide and trembling, darted between Logan and Lana like she couldn't decide which betrayal to scream at first. "You son of a bitch," she snapped, stepping closer, nostrils flaring. "So you're cheating now? You went and found the first slut who'd give you attention just to get back at me?" Logan didn't even blink. "No," he said, voice calm, almost eerily so. "I'm doing exactly what you did. Except I'm not lying to myself about what it is." "Oh, screw you," Brooke shrieked. "You think this is the same thing?" "It's not the same," Logan repeated mockingly, his tone a perfect echo of her voice just days ago. "Right? Because you were just catching up with an old friend. In a cabin. Alone. With your lacy red set packed and your phone on silent." Lana shifted awkwardly on the boat deck. She could feel the temperature rise between them, and even though she was no stranger to drama, she knew when she wasn't needed. "I'm going to give you two some space," she murmured to Logan, standing and slipping past them. She gave Brooke one look, a glance that said, "He's not yours to toy with anymore," then vanished up the dock with quiet grace. "You've lost your damn mind," Brooke hissed, chest heaving. "Posting pictures like that? Trying to humiliate me in front of everyone." "Oh, I didn't have to try that hard," Logan shot back. "You've been doing a pretty good job humiliating yourself these last few months. Lying to me, sneaking around, gaslighting me every time I asked why your phone was suddenly a fucking state secret." She flinched at the venom in his tone. "I wasn't sneaking around," she argued weakly. Logan's laugh was bitter and hollow. "Then what do you call telling me Kevin was like a brother, then vanishing for a weekend with him while dressing like you were headed to a damn honeymoon suite?" Brooke opened her mouth to fire back, then stopped. Her lips trembled. The rage in her eyes wavered, and for the first time since the confrontation started, something else crept through: guilt. "Logan," she said, voice quieter now. "Kevin, he kissed me." Logan went still. She watched his expression closely, maybe hoping for shock, maybe hoping he'd forgive her on the spot. But all she got was a long, cold pause. "I knew," he said flatly. "I just want to see how far you'd fall." Brooke's throat tightened. "Wait, what do you mean you knew?" "I've seen the signs for weeks, Sam. The late-night texts. The fake girls' nights. You were different. You were gone even when you were here. I didn't want to believe it at first." She shook her head, stepping closer. But Logan took a half-step back, subtle, deliberate, like someone inching away from something they used to love but no longer recognized. "I didn't sleep with him," she whispered. "Not yet," he replied, voice sharp. "But you were already gone the moment you chose to lie. The moment you made me feel like I was the crazy one for seeing what was right in front of me." Tears welled up in Brooke's eyes now. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she murmured. "I didn't plan any of it. Kevin, he was just someone I could talk to. Someone who listened." "I would have listened," Logan snapped, "if you hadn't shut me out like I didn't matter. If you'd actually talked to me instead of pretending everything was fine while you checked out." Silence again. Brooke reached out, her fingers trembling. "Logan, please, I messed up. But you're not innocent here either. You brought her here." "I brought clarity," he said. "You brought betrayal." Her hand dropped. Logan didn't yell. He didn't raise his voice again. He just stared at her, cold, quiet, exhausted from months of emotional combat. Then he turned away. "Logan, wait," she said, voice cracking. "Don't walk away. Please." But he didn't stop. He walked off the dock, down the gravel path toward the resort suite. His shadow stretched long in the late morning sun. He stepped inside the room they'd rented for the weekend, just him and Lana, and paused only to grab his duffel from the foot of the bed. His phone buzzed. Another text from Brooke. He didn't open it. Just before walking out again, he glanced at the bed, then the window, then the mirror across the room, staring at a version of himself he hadn't seen in a long time. A version that finally stopped begging to be enough. He opened the door and walked out, leaving her to sit with it, leaving her to process it. Chapter 8. Aftermath. Broken vows. The silence of a half-packed apartment was deafening. Logan stood in his new place, a modest one-bedroom on the edge of town. The kind of place you get when you don't know what the next chapter holds, when you're no longer building a life for two, but learning to breathe on your own again. The calendar had flipped 3 times since the lake resort. 3 weeks. 21 days. Over 300 unread messages. Most of them from her. Brooke. Emails poured in first. Apologies dressed in carefully chosen words, trying to sound mature, remorseful, reflective. Then came the texts. Raw. Desperate. Misspelled. I miss you. Please, Logan. You're still my husband. Can we talk? I can fix this. I swear. And then came the voicemails. The ones he didn't delete right away. He listened to a few, not to forgive, but to remind himself of what broken trust sounded like. There was one where she was crying so hard she could barely speak. Another where her tone was sharp, angry. So you're just going to give up on everything we built? Logan didn't respond to most, but he didn't block her either. He wasn't running from the pain. He just wasn't letting it dictate his next step. Then, one Tuesday evening, she sent a different kind of message. Just meet me. One last time. At Miller's. Our booth. Please. Miller's Diner. Their spot. Where they had Sunday breakfasts. Where he'd once written her a goofy poem on a napkin. Where she said yes when he proposed. Her hair pulled up, pancake syrup on her lip, and her eyes shining like he'd just handed her the world. That place used to mean forever. Now it just meant closure. He arrived 10 minutes late. Not to be rude, but to remind himself he wasn't chasing anything anymore. She was already there. Booth in the corner. Same seat as always. Hair straighter than usual. No makeup, just the soft kind of tired you can't wash off. When she saw him, her face lit up, then dimmed, realizing he didn't smile back. Hi, she said softly. Logan slid into the booth across from her without a word. The waitress brought them coffee without asking. She still remembered their old order. Small town muscle memory. Brooke reached across the table, almost touching his hand. He moved slightly, subtly, avoiding the contact without making it dramatic. I've missed you, she said. He nodded, still silent. She swallowed hard. I know you probably hate me. I don't hate you, Logan said calmly. I just don't trust you. Tears welled up instantly. She reached for a napkin, already trembling. I made a mistake, she whispered. A horrible mistake. I got lost, Logan. I didn't know how to talk to you anymore. I felt invisible. You weren't invisible, he said. You were just uninterested. That's not fair, she whispered. You were distant too. I worked 12-hour days, he said, voice even. Not because I wanted to be away, but because I thought I was building something for us. Something that mattered. I didn't know I had to compete with Kevin's emotional poetry and cabin therapy sessions. She looked down at her coffee, ashamed. I didn't sleep with him, she mumbled. Still not the point, Logan said. Her eyes met his again. Desperate. Wet. Then what is? He looked at her for a long time. You cheated emotionally first, he said, finally. That's worse. Her lips trembled. Why is that worse? Because sex is an impulse, he said. A mistake you can regret in the moment. But emotional cheating? That takes time. You let him in, bit by bit. You gave him pieces of you that used to be mine, that were supposed to be ours. Brooke covered her mouth, a quiet sob slipping through her fingers. I didn't mean to, but you did, he said. And every time I asked, every time I gave you an opening to be honest, you chose to lie. You looked me in the face and made me feel like I was crazy for noticing. I was scared, she whispered. So was I, Logan said. But I didn't lie to you. I didn't make you feel small. I didn't pretend. Silence fell between them like a wall they could never climb over again. Outside, the sun was setting, casting streaks of orange and gold across the windows, painting a warm glow over something irrevocably cold. Brooke sniffled. So that's it. Logan stood up slowly, finishing the last sip of coffee. He looked down at her one last time, soft eyes hardening just enough to make it final. I hope you find what you're looking for, he said. And without another word, he turned, walked out the door, and left her behind, alone in the booth where once they dreamed of forever. Chapter 9. Rebuilding Myself. There's a particular kind of silence in a man's life after betrayal, a raw, heavy quiet that wraps itself around your chest like a weight vest. It doesn't suffocate you, not exactly. It just reminds you every second that something is missing. For Logan, the first morning in his new apartment was that kind of quiet. No humming from the bathroom while she did her makeup. No coffee brewing from a machine set on automatic. No soft groan from under the covers when he kissed her forehead goodbye. Just the echo of his own breath in a space that still smelled faintly of new paint and cardboard. But it was his. The apartment wasn't big, just a one-bedroom with creaky floors and dated cabinets. But it was clean, simple, uncomplicated. And for the first time in years, Logan didn't feel like he was walking on emotional eggshells. His mornings changed. Instead of waking up early to tiptoe around her sleep schedule, he woke for himself. He made his own damn coffee, strong, bitter, black. He started jogging again. At first, just down the block. Then longer loops around the neighborhood. It wasn't about a revenge body. It was about reclaiming one thing he could control. His body, his breath, his discipline. He joined a gym, too. Not the flashy kind Brooke would have mocked. A small, old-school one, rubber mats, iron weights, chalk buckets, and guys that didn't talk much unless it was about bench press or deadlifts. Logan liked that. He didn't want sympathy or gossip. He just wanted to sweat and feel his strength come back, one rep at a time. He also started therapy. At first, he hated the idea. He didn't want to talk about his feelings. He didn't want to process trauma. What he wanted was to punch a wall and not be called dramatic for it. But after 2 weeks of restless sleep and clenched jaws, he walked into a quiet office and sat across from a woman named Kara, who looked more like a librarian than a shrink. She asked him why he was there. He told her he didn't know anymore. She didn't push. She just let him sit in silence until he talked. He ended up talking a lot. About Brooke. About the late nights and cold shoulders. About the way her smile changed when she started texting Kevin. About how he convinced himself that working harder would fix what she never wanted to admit was broken. About how stupid he felt for trusting her. About how angry he was at himself for letting her gaslight him for so long. Kara didn't tell him what to do. She just helped him see things for what they were. "You didn't fail her, Logan," she said one day, pen tapping against her notepad. She failed the agreement. The vow. You were showing up for someone who already had one foot out the door. He didn't cry in her office. But when he got home that night and saw the leftover takeout in the fridge, the kind Brooke used to hate because it was too greasy, he chuckled, sat down with a beer, and cried into his chili cheese fries. Grief comes in weird flavors, sometimes spicy. Lana reached out a couple of times. A message here, a check-in there, nothing pushy. "Hey, just wanted to say I'm proud of you. If you ever need a laugh, I'm still a pro at bad karaoke." No pressure, just vibes. She was good about giving him space, but Logan appreciated the lightness she brought. She reminded him that he was still desirable, still fun, still human. They had dinner once, just as friends. Lana wore a black leather jacket, boots, and that same wild confidence that once made college girls hate her and college guys want her. Logan kept it respectful. No mixed signals. He smiled when she teased him, laughed when she flirted. But when she leaned a little too close over dessert, he gently pulled back. "I'm not trying to fill her space," he said, tapping his spoon on the table. "I'm building one where no one like her fits anymore." Lana leaned back, impressed. "Damn, poetic and sexy. Growth looked good on you." They hugged at the end of the night. No kiss, no lingering, just mutual respect. Healing wasn't a montage. There were still hard nights. Some days, he woke up missing the old routine. Her voice in the kitchen, her leg tangled with his under the covers. Other days, he was angry again, furious that she had the audacity to cry in that diner like she was the one left behind. But slowly, the pain lost its edge. He started reading again. Novels, psychology books, even a trashy crime thriller or two. He picked up an old guitar from his college days and started playing again. Badly, but it made him feel something. He cleaned on Sundays, took himself to the movies. Sometimes he'd stand on his balcony with a beer and just breathe in the air like it was the first time he'd ever noticed how still the world could be without someone constantly pulling on your spirit. He wasn't whole yet, but he wasn't bleeding anymore either. He was rebuilding, not to prove anything to Brooke, not to make her regret losing him. He was rebuilding because he was worth the work. And this time, the foundation wouldn't crack from secrets and silence. Not again. Chapter 10. My final word. In her frozen face. The music was soft and elegant, drifting through the open garden of the wedding venue like a gentle memory. String lights twinkled overhead. Laughter bubbled from clusters of well-dressed guests, sipping champagne and exchanging inside jokes. The air was crisp, floral, tinged with something almost cinematic. Logan adjusted his tie in the reflection of his wine glass and leaned against a white trellis wrapped in vines. He looked sharp, clean-cut, confident, trim in a tailored navy suit that hinted at months of hard gym hours. A quiet strength radiated from him, the kind that didn't demand attention but always got it. The woman beside him laughed, a soft, musical sound. She was tall, brunette, with warm brown eyes and a subtle flirtatiousness in her smile. Her name was Elise. Not Lana, not a rebound, just someone he met 2 months ago at a networking event and, surprisingly, clicked with. Elise leaned in closer, whispering, "Okay, but seriously, tell me you didn't rehearse that toast in front of a mirror." Logan chuckled, sipping his wine. "I didn't. That was off the cuff." "Bull. That was way too charming to be spontaneous." He gave a half smirk, guilty of being naturally gifted. They laughed together, easy and unforced. It had been a long time since conversation didn't feel like walking through a minefield. Across the lawn, just beyond the champagne table, she appeared. Brooke, the ex-wife, the one who'd once held all of him and tossed it away for a weekend thrill and a pile of emotionally intimate texts. She hadn't seen him yet. Not really. Her eyes swept across the crowd absently, chatting with some old mutual friends, fingers toying with the stem of her glass. She looked good. That didn't surprise him. Brooke always looked good. Her dress was emerald green, clinging in the right places. Hair in soft waves. But her posture? Off. That aura she used to carry, casual dominance in any room, was dimmed. She was smiling, but it didn't reach her eyes. Then she saw him. Their eyes met across the garden. That smile vanished. Logan held the gaze just long enough to let her feel it. The reality. The change. Then he turned back to Elise, whispering something that made her laugh again. A few minutes passed. Brooke made her way toward him, heels clicking too loud on the cobblestone path, smile trying hard to be casual, but failing. "Hey," she said, standing a few feet away, just enough distance to make it awkward. Logan turned, slow and composed. "Brooke," she gave a half smile. "You look good." He let the moment hang before answering. "I feel good." She nodded, trying to match his cool. "You seem happy." "I am." Her eyes darted to Elise, who had graciously stepped aside to give them space, but lingered close enough to stake a subtle claim. "You look—" Brooke hesitated, surprised. He raised an eyebrow, a sly grin tugging at the corner of his mouth. "You look surprised." Brooke laughed once, breathy and nervous. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Mutual friend," Logan said with a shrug. "And besides, I love weddings. They're full of promises people hopefully mean." She flinched barely, but he saw it. "Is she your girlfriend?" Brooke asked, tilting her head toward Elise. Logan took a sip of his wine. "She's a friend." Brooke's lips parted slightly, surprised. "Just a friend." "Relax," he said with a small wink. "We're just friends. Besides, she's way more fun on weekends." Brooke froze. It was a precision strike, subtle, clean, and devastating. Her eyes narrowed, stung by the reflection of her own past words. She wasn't used to being on the receiving end. Logan didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't call her names or bring up Kevin or the cabin or the nights she used to text under the covers like she was solving a puzzle instead of ruining a marriage. He just stood there, solid, unbothered. "How long have you two been?" She trailed off. "Doesn't matter," he replied. She bit her lip, eyes starting to gloss over. "I've been thinking a lot, Logan. About everything. I know I can't take it back, but do you think we could ever talk? Just talk." Logan exhaled slowly, as if weighing the request. He tilted his head, studying her like a stranger he used to know. "I think we said everything that needed to be said," he replied, voice even. "You made your choices. I made mine. Brooke's voice cracked. "I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't expect to lose everything." "You didn't lose everything," Logan said. "You let it go." Brooke blinked fast, as if trying to fight the tears rising. "You used to say you'd never give up on me." "I didn't," he said. I waited. I fought. I gave you chance after chance. You just kept betting I wouldn't walk. He looked past her then, toward Elise, toward the music, toward the life ahead. And then, without drama or flourish, he took a slow step back. Goodbye, Brooke. He turned and walked away, his stride calm, shoulders relaxed. She didn't call after him. She didn't chase. She just stood there, clutching her empty glass like it could somehow hold the things she threw away. Logan rejoined Elise. She glanced at him. You good? Yeah, he said, just closing the final chapter. She nodded. She didn't take it well. She never really did handle consequences. They walked back toward the dance floor, the lights shimmering overhead. The past didn't follow. Only the final thought echoed in his mind like a closing door. Loyalty isn't something you get back after you give it away.